Some people, they really don't want to talk about the truth or talk about anything that's controversial to their own beliefs. Like look at C19, for example. Many people do not want to talk about it anymore. Forgive and forget, right? Don't talk about it anymore, but also don't change. They are afraid to look at certain corners of the world. And that made me always wonder, like especially during 9/11. For me, we are in this world. We got spawned in this world. We got born in this world. It is a miraculous world. We got 10 fingers. We got 10 toes. There are trees growing. There are animals. There are structures in place which we before believed were all for our own benefit and were not deceiving, were not manipulating, and they were definitely not trying to hurt us. But then when there's a little piece of evidence coming, and for me first that was 9/11, that things might not be exactly how you thought they would be. It's a fundamental shift that takes place in your system because your belief system changed the moment you are going to research that, and you can almost cannot get to another conclusion if you dive deep enough into it. You will get a big understanding of the world. You may not have all the answers, but you at least see some corners that most people don't look at. And the crazy thing that always boggled me back in the days was like that some people, they live their life and they don't even want to take one day out of their life, not even 1 hour, to sit down and investigate a little bit further, research a little bit further. It can fundamentally change your life perception in such a way. Wouldn't it be worth to just sit a day or sit a couple of hours to research it a little bit further, because it might change the whole course of your whole life, your belief systems and anything? No. They don't want it because they are not interested in the truth. They accepted the lies, deceit, and manipulation, and they are not interested in any other reality. That tells a lot about a person. When a person is not even willing to look at different realities or different parts of the stories, it says a lot. And as you probably watching this video does look around the corner and does go beyond where other people stop, you often feel, when you talk to these people, you feel like you're talking to a wall. And then you might wonder what's inside, what is housing inside those people, what type of spirit is inside there. Is it a sleeping spirit? Is it an unconscious spirit? Is it a spirit? What is it? And some might say like, yeah, but I cannot change anything. Yo, it's still crazy, because even though you have the feeling you cannot change anything, this is just a feeling. Who says that it is reality? You can research further and you might find something that you can do to change something. You might have a crazy amount of power, universal power housing within you that can change the whole world. So that's not an excuse. Like, yeah, but one man or me alone cannot change anything. No, you don't want to look. And if you don't want to look at it, I've never understood that. I really never understood that. Because, and that's what I found out recently, because I'm a different breed, and I'm not saying better or worse than anybody, but completely different. I'm an empathetic being. I can have empathy for other people, sometimes even too much empathy, which brings me into trouble as well, because I feel more for someone else than that someone else is feeling for him or herself. But there are people in this world, many people, that do not have the element of empathy. And that is very dangerous, because if you encounter someone who do not have empathy, this person is a big danger for you, because if there's no empathy, that person is basically capable of doing anything. Also hurt you, because he doesn't feel empathy anyway. And then there are even people, and that's what really makes me think there are different breeds on this planet, because there are even people who abuse your empathy. So they will act like being a victim, right? While they are not a victim. They are being a victim because they know it will trigger the feeling of empathy within you. And by acting the victim, they can control you. And that is what's happening, guys. And that is pretty crazy, because this is happening on a smaller scale and it's happening on a big scale. Because if you ever looked into narcissistic family systems, then what we are seeing in a narcissistic family system is exactly what we are seeing on a global scale. So for the ones that don't know what a narcissistic family system is, it is a system that operates on survival, but not on love, not on true love. So you have one or two narcissistic parents, right? It can be one, it can be two. The biggest characteristics of a narcissistic person is lack of empathy. There's no empathy. So that person can hurt you and then still sleep, in speaking of terms, right? Or maybe does on purpose things to hurt you, because he or she likes to see you hurt. There are many people, it's actually pretty sick, but there are many people that actually enjoy seeing other people getting hurt. They enjoy, because they lack empathy. Imagine if there is no empathy, then there are no borders. There are no boundaries in what you can do to hurt other people, because you don't feel empathy anyway. You can just sleep and you don't feel guilt, you don't feel shame, because you lack empathy. So most of the time you have one narcissistic parent or two. So two is even worse, but most of the time they don't stay long together. Most of the time it's one narcissistic parent, and the second one is the enabler, the one that is codependent of the narcissistic parent, who has a very low self-love, very low self-worth, and therefore accepts the crazy treatment of the narcissist, but also enables the abuse further down in the family tree. So when there are kids involved, kids will be an extension of the narcissistic family parent, and the enabler will make sure that these kids kind of like stay in their role, stay in their position, to eventually be abused. Basically be abused. And probably many of you watching this video have been going through some of these things, especially if you're around my age. You probably have seen many things in the world already during your life, which makes you think like, what's going on here? What's going on here? And I personally always rationalized it for myself. I always made excuses like, this person, it's so sad for this person, it's so sad for that person, right? I got a lot of empathy, too much empathy, so to say. And by having all that empathy, I forgot one thing, and that one thing that I forgot was myself, right? Put yourself on number one, on the highest priority. Self-love is love for God, because you are created by God, and if you do not love yourself, if you neglect yourself, you're actually hurting your spirituality too. Because the first thing that comes in your universe is you. And you have to take care of yourself. You have to explore the gifts that are inside of you. Because only then, when you explore the gifts that are inside of you, are you able to share them with the world. How can you share your gifts with the world when you're not even loving yourself, and you're putting yourself aside for other people because you have too much empathy for those people, but you don't have empathy for yourself? How does that work? What kind of gifts are you giving to the world? Or are you helping the victim to stay in the victim mode, and you yourself harming yourself? It's actually a form of self-harm. It's also known as codependency. Codependency characteristics, people that are dependent or they are feeling dependent on the mood of someone else. And I've experienced much with this. So if someone else is with you and that person doesn't feel good, you cannot separate that from yourself. You will automatically also don't feel good until that other person feels good. So you will do everything in a survival mechanism. You will do everything to make that other person feel good, because that's the only way that you can feel good. And you got that from a narcissistic family dynamic, because you learned that as a young kid, because that's how you could survive as being a kid. Because if you have a narcissistic parent and you stand up to that parent, you will always be punished. So you had to people please your family or the parent in order to avoid conflict, because as a kid that was your survival mechanism, and it's very difficult to deprogram these programs in your system. But when you grow up, that's why when you grow up you still have these programs. I don't know, I don't even have words for it, to be honest. But one of the most fundamental things as being a human is, of course, the search for what is real and what is not real. And if someone doesn't have that in him to even want to look to things because they don't want to know what's real and not real, they rather prefer the illusion, then they are choosing to live unconsciously, and they can, and some will, harm you. That's also, guys, often when there is abuse going on. And I'm not saying always, because there are some sick-minded people on this planet, right? Many people on this planet are sick. But when there is abuse going on, often the person that is being abused, being emotionally abused, often, I'm not saying always, but often, that person lets it happen too. That person doesn't have any boundaries. It's not clear in communicating that he or she doesn't want this to happen. Because once you start communicating clear, you'll see that many of the people that are trying to take advantage of you or trying to abuse you, they lose their power. Once you say no, they lose their power. And that is how strong your voice actually is. Because your no is a no, and that is your no in your universe. It is a universal law that the other person has to respect, and the other person knows, within encoded in his body, knows that when you see through the lies and when you say no, that person loses all his or her power. So it's really time for us to claim our power back. And how do you do that? By choosing for yourself and making conscious decisions. Let's go out, guys, because it's beautiful weather in the Netherlands. Look at the sun that is shining through the windows. Let's go. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of my friends. So you got to be really careful who you surround yourself with, because if you surround yourself with the wrong people and they actually try to take advantage of you by abusing your empathy, then you actually betray yourself. It doesn't feel like that, or maybe if you don't recognize it yet, it will not feel like that. It will just feel like there are always problems. There are always problems that are not being solved. And this is where the crazy thing comes. The problems by toxic people do not want to be solved. The problem is the goal. And one thing that I've learned in the past couple of years is that if you see a pattern and the pattern has the same result, then the result is the goal. So if you, for example, have a relationship with someone and you continue to run into these fights and you try to solve these fights, but it just simply doesn't work, the fights are the goal. That person wants to fight with you because he or she gets something with creating that drama, and that's a whole nother discussion on a spiritual level. But some people, they tap into your emotional tank, and they want to get emotional fuel out of you by creating this drama, by disbalancing you. They are feeling in control, they are feeling superior. And yeah, we have to be very discerning about that, because if you spend time with these people, with these types of people that are, let's call it, toxic, they basically contaminate your energetic system, and you basically harm yourself. You practicing self-harm, and you betray yourself as well. And this is very important, because we all came here with a purpose. Don't let anyone else outside of you get you off track. Don't let other people succeed in getting you off track. No, stay on your own path. Have the courage to be disliked. We are seeing an epidemic of narcissists and codependence. This is a epidemic, and we are seeing it so often. Like, if I'm talking with my friends and we are looking at the family dynamics, it looks like it kind of looks, guys, and it goes really crazy to say, it kind of looks like that the world is in a complete illusion, and that many chosen ones, let's call it codependents, many people with highly empathic characteristics, they enter this world. It looks like they are placed in structures for people that try to dim their light, to get rid of their light, to get rid of their authentic energy. Those people are not allowed to be authentic. Authenticity is a threat to the narcissist. Authenticity is a threat to people who don't like that you ask questions, who don't like to ask questions, who are not looking for any truth. They are fine with the illusion, because the illusion and all that stuff is the goal. When there is a pattern and the result, it is the goal. So if you see, for example, in the society, you see a continuation of the disbalance, right? And that disbalance comes maybe through regulations, probably through regulations, but there's more at play here, way more at play. But you see a continuation of that. It is the goal. It is the goal. It is not the result of a mistake. Something can happen once, right? And when somebody makes a mistake, and they come out and they, for example, apologize, they recognize that they make a mistake and they try to improve, that's genuine. That's something genuine, and that's very highly valuable to have something like that, to put yourself in a vulnerable state, to be able to say that you're wrong and to be able to grow from that. That's almost the characteristics that every successful person in life has. But if you don't see that in a person, if you don't see that vulnerability in a person, and the person continues to make decisions with similar outcomes, then that outcome is the goal, even though the person is not completely aware of it. I had it similar in my past, where I had very weird outcomes, very harmful outcomes for myself. But later I realized that that was actually the goal. I tried to harm myself because I was feeling not safe, and that comes from my childhood, from my even below my childhood, from me as a baby, or when I was very young. But when I grew up and I was not conscious of this, I continued to to basically show self-destructive behavior. But it was the goal. It was definitely the goal in those times for me. And then until I got conscious of it, I could let that part of myself go, to not be self-destructive all the time, and to love myself more, because that's what is the root of all, is a lack of self-love. So once you have that self-love, you directly behave completely different, and you also be more in tune and more in harmony with nature, because you respect yourself more and you're part of that nature as well. But it's your authentic your own authenticity. That is part of it. That's also why I say your authenticity will become the currency of the future, because the people that will have a lot of value in the future are the ones that are authentic. And why do they have value? Because they carry truth. They are standing close to the truth. And when the world is shaking, like we are going to see a jubilee year, the world is shaking and the world wars are coming, the people that are most authentic and that are staying close to their inner self, those are the ones that are not being shaken that much by the external events, because they know internally exactly what they are. They know internally exactly their self-worth. So they are having a completely different position in society than the ones that are only externally focused and that are completely disconnected from themselves. The people that are completely disconnected from themselves, they are going to live only in the effects, not in the cause, and they are going to suffer so much, which they already do right now. The people that are not present, the people that are not conscious, are the ones in society right now that actually suffer the most. The ones that are conscious, the ones that are more connected to the authentic self, are the ones that are more happy. So this is a trend that I think will continue, and that's why it's so important. Of course, we need material gains, we need skill sets, we need all of these things, but we also need our authenticity. And we need all of these things. We need the whole package, guys. We need the whole package. And that's why for many, schools are also useless. For me, school was really useless, and I'm not saying that in an arrogant way, but schools are filled with people that are not asking questions. They all learned to listen. It's all learned to listen. I remember a couple of things on my high school when we were taught about the pyramids in Giza. It was always the story like these are tombs from the pharaohs, because when they die they want to have like a nice tomb, and as a kid you're just like, okay, sure, whatever. I want to go out, I want to play with my friends, right? But then when you grow up and you start to listen, for example, to Graham Hancock, or you start to dive into this story of the pyramids of Giza, you'll just know for a fact that what has been told to you in school is for sure not right. And I'm not saying, and this is very important, people always say like, yeah, but you act like you know everything. No, I'm not claiming to have any answer to this great mystery on this planet, but I can tell you, if you look very closely to all the evidence or to the whole situation, it is not the story that is being told by school. It is not the story that's being told by school. So then you are young, you're being forced to go to school, right? You have to get good grades from information that's not even valid. What does that mean? What does that mean? They just want to keep you busy with information that's not even right, to then put pressure on you as a kid to fill in or to answer questions in a certain way, which later you found out is not even the truth to begin with. You don't know the truth exactly. No one knows the truth what's happened there, because we are not in the time. And the same happened for me when I studied later. My bachelor study, it was called creative technology, and you should learn to build websites, build mobile applications, everything digital, to actually generate money. But we never learned in the study how to generate money, how to generate your first dollar online. We had to make, for example, a website, we had to make a game, we had to make these products, and it was fun. And of course I've learned something in the study. I don't want to bash it completely, but after my study, I actually started some web shops, and I had to go through the whole process again of learning how to build that web shop. Right, and then you go through the process, and then you start to think in a marketing way. You start to think completely different, and these are all things that were not taught on my studies. So I think it's very important with many studies. It depends also what your goal is, of course. But if you are studying for for a doctor, you not need to learn in the first year how to earn your money as a doctor, right? But if you're studying something like, for example, online digital creative technology, and a part of like many of the people on the study maybe want to become digital entrepreneurs, that one of the first things you should learn is how do payment systems works, how can you earn your first money, like how does marketing work, is it, what's important with products, which products have been doing good, and stuff like that. Right, but no, we actually learn, and this is in the high school, this is in primary school, and this is also at in universities. Is you learn to listen. You learn to listen, and you learn not to ask any questions. I remember for a lot of tests I was studying, even for my bachelor, and I was reading the questions, and for me, I was not agreeing with the answers of the questions. I was not agreeing, and I was highly doubting whether these answers were right or not, and I found them often very superficial. But I just had to learn these facts to make sure that I write on the test what I think the teacher expect me to answer. But if it's the truth, I highly doubt it. Similar like the pyramids, man, because the pyramids are no tombs, and that for me is a fact. And everyone that, and then you go to the high school, and it's being taught to you that the pyramids are tombs with the pharaohs and whatnot, and it's taught you like they have it all figured out. They have it all figured out, and it's like this, and you just have to accept it, and you don't know because you are a kid, and then you have to learn. But in the but in the end, it's just so funny because it's not even true. It's not even true. And if you then ask questions, some teachers will probably be nice about it, and they will be supportive of critical thinking. But most teachers, they will just wave it away like this student is difficult. This student is difficult. He asks too much questions, because the thing is, the teacher doesn't has the answer himself as well. Right, he doesn't have the answer. He's just repeating what is being presented in a book. So guys, this brings me all back to this same principle of this video. You are being born, and you have to be lucky. Whether it is a functional or dysfunctional family, they'll try to especially in school, they try to raise you in a certain way. They try to have these unwritten rules, but eventually you have to connect with yourself, and you have to live from your truth. And whatever somebody else is thinking, it doesn't really matter, because you don't know their intentions, and you don't know if they have it at the right end. You don't know how much they understand something. You don't even know how much they respect themselves. Maybe they just repeating something that they have heard, and then you are neglecting yourself because you want to please someone that is actually just repeating something, and is completely unconscious that it is not right at all. Right? Nobody knows what's right for you. Only you knows what's right for you. And if you are connected with your authentic self, I'm 100% sure that you are not able to harm anyone else. You will never harm someone if you are connected with your authentic self, because that is not in your nature. It's not in your nature. The people that are harmed are the people that are unconscious and that are not connected to their authentic self. So when you are connected to your authentic self, and you have the courage to be disliked, go through your life on your own terms, follow your path no matter what. Don't mind the criticism from other people, because you never know where it's coming from. Right? They just repeating unconscious patterns in their brain or whatever. This is your life. You came here with a purpose. You have the responsibility to grow in that purpose, and let no one outside of you talk you out of your purpose. No one.